All right, welcome into this edition of the Bucs Report podcast. In today's edition, we have Steve Versnick from the Sports Day Tampa Bay podcast. Steve, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me again.
You know, we take a look at the Buccaneers this season, and I don't think that injuries were going to be so drawn into focus, but really early this season, this team is plagued with injuries. And listening to your podcast this morning, I hear that Cody Mao is the most recent addition to the injured list. So a lot for this team to deal with right out of the gate. But let's talk big picture. We won't go into the negativity right away. We'll talk about the Bucs coming off on a great start here, 2-0 on the season. Are you surprised with the early success this team has had?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised by it. I mean, you know, we know this was a championship contending team coming in. I mean, you saw the offense last year. It was top 5 in the NFL. It scored 28, 29 points a game. You knew Todd Bowles' defense is kind of a bend, don't break. They probably gave up a little too much last year. They don't create enough turnovers, but you added Hassan Reddick to add to the pass rush, which was the biggest weakness. You have an Antoine Winfield Jr. who's healthy. You got Servassier Dennis back, which you would hope for big things, and I'm sure we'll get into him as we go forward. But, you know, you thought the defense would be improved. And you know, this is a team that's won the division 4 straight years. So to say I'm surprised, no. Now, they went on the road and won the first 2 games. And they did it in dramatic fashion. And you see that they never give up. And you didn't know some of the injuries. I mean, you don't have Tristan Wirfs, which you weren't expecting coming into the season. Chris Godwin, you knew probably wasn't going to be there initially. But Jalen McMillan's out, you know. So some of your weapons on offense were reduced significantly. But the offensive line has been the biggest story because of Tristan Wirfs and how they've moved stuff around. I mean, who thought that Graham Barton was going to be playing left tackle for you and Ben Bredesen was going to move to center and Michael Jordan, who wasn't even in training camp to start the season, was going to be your left guard. You know, we had touted all offseason that the whole offense was back, all 11 starters, many of the backups, so that, you know, the offense should only get better other than not knowing what Josh Grizzard would do. But you factor in all the injuries. And as we always say with injuries in the NFL, you're going to have them. You just can't have them in the same position piling up on each other, and that's what the Bucs have again this year. Last year was kind of the defensive backs. This year now it seems like the offensive line.
You know, I listened to your podcast, and I heard that you and Rick talking about that the first game is a liar. And oftentimes I think that that's what a loser says, right? Don't read too much into this. That was just the first game, but the Bucs able to duplicate that success. So let's talk about the man himself, Baker Mayfield. Listen, there was quite a vacuum when Tom Brady departed this team. Who was going to be the guy to take over? And, you know, when you listen to the name Baker Mayfield, it was met with a lot of, oh, that guy, the guy that's bounced around the league quite a bit here. But he has been a great addition to this team. And you hear the players say that it's more like playing with your big brother than playing with dad, that there is this rapport with Baker Mayfield with the players on this team. When you take a look at it, it has come down to some last-minute heroics by Baker Mayfield and the Bucs that put them in the win column. Is that what you want? Is that sustainable throughout the season? You got to think that they'd like to handle it a little bit more handily. And like you guys were talking about on a recent show about if they kind of just gave them a touchdown towards the end of the game. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the Buccaneers and how it's coming down to the wire here.
No, I don't think it's sustainable to have game-winning drives every game. But first 2 games on the road, a makeshift offensive line, like, you know, there's going to be issues. I mean, that's the season's a marathon, not a sprint. And even though there's only 17 games and everyone feels like if you win this week, you're going to the Super Bowl, you lose this week, you're the worst team ever. And that's kind of the ebbs and flows of the NFL. The sustaining at the end of the game is not good. But it's good that you are able to do that, right? I mean, Baker Mayfield has, 12 touchdowns now and comeback wins basically since he got to the Bucs, I believe, or maybe that's his career. But you know, some quarterbacks have that cool, calm, can handle that situation. Others don't. I mean, Tom Brady was the best at it. Peyton Manning was fantastic at it. You know, that they can kind of calm down and stay calm and patient when everybody else is hurrying up, when everything else is, the fans are screaming, the players are sprinting around the field trying to get set, and they're able to just ease everything up, and that's what you want in a quarterback. Do you want it to come down to the final drive every game? No, because you're not always going to have the ball last. We've seen that in the past where Todd Bowles relies on his defense to stop it at the end, and they haven't been able to. The Rams game in the playoffs a couple years ago and others. So, no, you don't want that. But 2 wins on the road to start the season with a makeshift offensive line, you take it, and at the end of the season, they don't ask how you won the games. They ask how many you won. And that's what determines whether you make the playoffs and what your seeding is.
So as we take a look at it, is it all on Baker, or are changes up front in the play calling make those finishes easier?
Well, and that's the other part of this too is so new offensive coordinator for the 3rd straight year. Now, new play caller, is Josh Grizzard been perfect in the play calls? Probably not. He's going to learn as he goes along too. And as you said, your blind side is not Tristan Wirfs over there. Now you got Graham Barton who's done well, but that changes everything too. I mean, you've probably seen Baker run a little more than you'd like to, but he's also been outside of the one fumble. He hasn't been turning the ball over, which last year he led the NFL in interceptions and he led the NFL in fumbles, I believe, too. So, that's important too. So he's not been doing that with that makeshift offensive line. I mean, Luke Gedecke's not playing at right tackle some. Now with Cody Malkin, this week you may have not one person that you anticipated being in their spot on the starting on the offensive line to start this game Saturday or Sunday at home, and that's tough. I mean, that's the one unit on the field that is a unit. Like you can replace you have a receiver go down, you bring somebody else in, and yes, there's adjustments and things like that. But when the offensive line is makeshift like that, that's the one unit that if one guy makes a mistake, everything goes to crap. And it doesn't matter which guy makes it. If one guy makes a mistake in the read, goes and blocks the wrong guy, double teams the wrong person, doesn't pick up this block, doesn't see this blitzer, like everything goes to hell on that. And so, I give the Bucs a lot of credit. Like I said, when you start 0-2 or 2-0 on the road, like that's in the NFL. If you go perfect at home and 500 on the road, that's 12 or 13 wins. That's a great season. So you've got 2 road wins, including one at Houston, which is supposed to be a good team, and then a division rival. You got a road win where last year you lost there. So, and I think Josh Grizzard's going to get better and grow into it and his play calling, but I also think he's limited right now too.
So another area of concern is Baker Mayfield. There was a lot of talk that he didn't get any preseason reps. I know in the joint practices he did, because they were trying to shield him from injury, because the trajectory of this team is going to change dramatically. If it's Teddy Bridgewater football, he might get you a game or two there. He is a modern day quarterback in the regard that he has a bit of what I'm going to call happy feet. He is not Tom Brady, who will sit in the pocket and wait for the play to develop. And, he has had some success there, right? I think it's fair to say that the Bucs may not have won the last game had he not, show those off those wheels there. Usually you take a dive to shield yourself, but in that game, you really couldn't. He was fighting for yardage there. How concerned are you with Baker Mayfield as he was kind of hobbling around after the game, and as of right now, I think that he's going to be good to go. I guess it's a little bit too early to say, but what are the perils, would you say, of being a quarterback that likes to run a lot? I know that intrinsically that is who he is. You can't take the dog out of him, but how detrimental could that be for the Bucs?
Well, he's definitely more Brett Favre than Tom Brady. And he may not be quite Brett Favre, gunslinger in that, but the whole point, and Bruce Arians was on the Pat McAfee show this week and talked about, the time to run or running, but to make contact. When are you doing that? Is it 3rd down and you need to get the 1st down? Is it the last 2 minutes of a half and you're trying to march down the field? Or is it the second possession of the game and you're on your own 20 and it's 1st down? Like avoid it's knowing when to take the contact because you need it, and when to get rid of it. Tom Brady was a master at not necessarily the contact, but I'll just throw the ball away. I get pressure. I'm questioning. I throw it away. Live to fight another down. It's the first quarter. It's the second drive. We punt it here. No big deal. Like, I'm not going to make a mistake. Tom Brady was a master at knowing the situation, when to force something and when not to. And you need to do the same thing. And Baker, I think, is learning that. But, anytime you're a quarterback who runs, you got a chance of getting hurt. Although Joe Burrow got hurt sitting in the pocket. Like, you're going to get hurt there too. So it's just knowing when to take on that contact, when to give yourself up. And if it's 1st down and you're scrambling, you don't need the 1st down. You're 2 yards short, just slide. Like, it's okay. You got 2nd and 3rd down to get it. If it's third down and it's a crucial part of the game, okay, take on a guy. It's hard in the moment, but it's knowing score and situation and that in time. That's what you really need to know.
So one of the best additions this season, I'm going to say on the offense, is Emeka Egbuka. Listen, going into this season, we knew that Godwin was going to miss some time, and we had Jalen McMillan penciled in. Well, guess what? Injuries happened. Teddy Bridgewater kind of airmailed it over him, and he climbed the ladder to catch it, and, well, he's going to be missing some time as well. That if you take a look at Egbuka, I knew he was going to be good. Did we know he was going to be this good? Now, listen, Baker Mayfield has, sung his praises, and he's like, I'm not surprised. I told you this guy was as good as I said he is. How surprised are you with the kind of success he's had early on this season?
I'm not surprised at success because if you watched him at Ohio State and you hear the comments from Ohio State, and even in his last year there, he ended up being the second best receiver on that team, but he embraced Jeremiah Smith and helped coach him, and he's been a student of the game and studies it and works hard. I'm not surprised by success. This much success? Maybe a little bit, although I wasn't expecting him to be wide receiver 2 permanently. You expected Jalen McMillan to be beside him. A lot of this success and it's his work ethic and everything they praise him, but his teams are taking Mike Evans out, and so that leaves Egbuka open, and he's capitalized on it, which is what you want a wide receiver 2 to do is, when they decide they're going to double team WR1, Mike Evans, or whether it's Justin Jefferson or anybody in the league, your number 2 receiver's got to step up and make plays. And that's what Egbuka's done, which is exactly what you want to see. I don't know if I'm not surprised at success, but I didn't expect 3 touchdowns through 2 games and for him to look as good as he did. But, they've been singing his praises all preseason. They weren't lying.
So we take a look at the wide receiver room, and we know at some point Godwin is going to be back. It's going to be Jalen McMillan. And wow, this team seems like it is going to be untouchable in the offense department. Talk to me about kind of how the wide receiver room is going to be laid out when all of those, he has all those weapons at his disposal, Baker Mayfield. Who is going to be the one that's targeted the most? Kind of rate them in order of where they all fit in.
Well, I think you're always targeting Mike Evans, number 1. I mean, on every play, you're looking, is Mike Evans got the coverage I want? Is he in the position that, we need it to be? I mean, he's your Hall of Famer. Maybe Egbuka becomes one day. We'll see. Chris Godwin is definitely going to be in the Bucs Ring of Honor. Probably not Hall of Fame NFL at this point, but, we'll see. And he's really good too. But you're always looking, where's Mike Evans? What matchup does he got? Is it zone? Is it man? Is it double team? Is it, where's he at? And is he option 1 in this play, or is he basically trying to take defense somewhere else? At this point, I think Egbuka is probably your number 2 over McMillan. And not that McMillan's not capable, but, he last year he had a good year, got good at the end, but injuries affect you. And, also when he comes back week 9, 10, whatever it is, how is he how healthy is he going to be? Much like we've seen Chris Godwin come back from injuries often, and it's a different injury than what McMillan has, but Godwin was good, but not great right away. And, injuries on the neck, man, that's tough, man. I don't, how healthy is he going to be when he comes back? How scared is he getting hit across the middle? And, they're not scared, but it does play in your mindset. I mean, Hall of Famers in any sport, you tear your knee, and that first time you try to cut on that knee, you're thinking it. Like, you're not scared, you go do it, but there can be a hesitation, a pause. Like, I think Emeka's probably your wide receiver 2, but I also think Josh Guzard's going to run a lot of 3 receiver sets, so they're all going to be out there. It's not going to be like McMillan sitting the bench. I think Emeka is showing he's capable of being a wide receiver 2 as a rookie, which is impressive.
So a lot of options is what they're going to have there. And now we take a look at the running back position as well, and kind of an interesting event there, shall we say, that Bucky Irving came on the scene and kind of supplanted Rachaad White. But there's more. Rachaad White in the last game showed that he has a lot more to his game than many people had projected him as. Talk to me about Rachaad White here for a moment. Is what we saw in the last game, can we see more of that from him, or do you see it being still primarily Bucky ball?
I hope we see more of it, because he was assertive. He was decisive in his runs, and early in his career he would try to find holes, and you're kind of hesitating and looking for the holes. And one thing Bucky will do is he'll just go attack a hole, and that's what you saw Rachaad White do more and more of. I think last year he got better at that too, and this year so far he's shown he's even better. And that's what you need in running backs is there are times, much like with Baker, we talk about when do you wait for the hole and when do you just attack and go? Kind of knowing situation, what you need, what the down distance, et cetera, is, what the play call is, the blocking scheme, all that. You want Rashad to be more. We know he's the best blocker in the backfield as far as picking up blitzes and such like that, which is why he's going to continue to get playing time. If he can continue to run assertively and aggressively like that, he's going to continue to get playing time too. And then you get a 1-2 punch in the backfield, which is really ideal. Unless you've got Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. Like, I want 2 running backs. I want to wear you down because I've got 2 good backs that go at you. And my offensive line just leaning on you all game. That's how you want to wear them down, with the exception of a couple backs in the NFL. Like, you need to, and I like Sean Tucker too. I still want to see him a little more, but as Todd Bowles and Josh Grizzard have said, it's hard to get 3 backs going and all in the same direction in a game. It's hard. You don't have that many snaps. You don't play 2 backs in the backfield much anymore, like 20 years ago you used to. So it's hard to, but I really like what Sean Tucker gives too.
Yeah, I've said that on my show as well, that I think that Tucker could be a starter on another team. It's just that the Bucs have this luxury of wealth at that position. But let's talk about, it hasn't been all smooth sailing for the Bucs. Chase McLaughlin, yes, a guy that was the steady Eddie at that position. You could pretty much book it every time that he attempted that he was going to deliver, but it hasn't been the case this season. How concerned should we be as Bucs fans about Chase McLaughlin, and what big picture, what do the Buccaneers plan to do to rectify the situation? Are they going to bring in some other options? Like it's been said out there, if there were better options, chances are they would have a home on another team. Rate your concern on Chase McLaughlin.
I'm concerned, but I'm not at the point where you're panicking yet. And initially you kind of go, oh, they got to bring somebody in. He's missed, an extra point and 2 kicks this year. But the minute you bring somebody in, you better be ready to cut Chase and move on. It doesn't mean you will, but mentally that affects the kicker too. That's the loneliest position on the field, is the kicker, because they're off on their own doing everything. And they only come in 2 or 3 or 4 times a game. Many times they have a game-winning kick or potential of that, and that's a lot of pressure in that. And so when you start bringing that guy in, it can create pressure. Now, some players will embrace it, and it'll end up being better. Others can fold in that, and it's hard to tell which one Chase is in that. So I think the Bucs look at it as, look, he's missed a couple kicks. We know how good he is. We've seen how good he is. I'm guessing he's doing really well in practice as well. They won the 2 games, so he hasn't cost them anything yet. So let's be patient. Let's see if he can work through this, because we think he's the best kicker available. If anyone available or him, we think he's the best. We have time. If now this week he goes out and misses another kick or 2, it may be time to start looking. But the minute you bring somebody in, you better be willing to make the change, because you may have to at that point. And so, what they want to do there, it's amazing, because we thought kicking was a strength of this team going in, the special teams. Right. Chase McLaughlin, how good he was last year and how good he's been since the Bucs, and Riley Dixon, who now has a punt blocked, and I my biggest complaint, although that's a huge complaint, how slow he is to kick the ball. That wasn't on the blockers. That was on him why he got blocked. And he almost had one blocked earlier. But he also outkicks his coverage half the time. Like, he set up the big punt return. Because, there was one guy down there, maybe it was a block in the back. It was a questionable one. They could have called it. But, after that, they won the guy for 20 yards. Like, I don't care if you can kick it 75 yards. If the guy's going to return at 50, it doesn't matter. Like, I'd rather get a high punt that goes 40 and they never return it. Like, that's safe. I know exactly what I'm dealing with when that happens. When you try to outkick that coverage, now you've got problems, and that's when they could take it to the house. Maybe you stop them and it's a 55-yard net. Great. But then you get the opportunity at the end of the game where Houston got the big punt return and set that up. So
let's next talk about injuries. We talked off the top of the show there about Godwin. We knew he was going to miss some time. And then one of the most unfortunate injuries, I guess I'm going to say, is Tristan Wirfs. And that had kind of a ripple down effect. You saw Graham Barton, Bredesen move around. You had Michael Jordan in there as well. And I think that some people thought they just kind of threw it at the wall and thought, well, let's see if that works. As it turns out, those players have a history at those positions, and all things considered, I think performed nearly flawlessly. Not perfect, but I think better than many people had anticipated. It does appear as though Tristan Wirfs is edging closer to return. How does that all shake out? What does the lineup look like with Wirfs back in the mix, as we know that he protects Baker's blind side. How does that all shake out once Wirfs is back in the mix, and talk about the impact of Tristan Wirfs on this team?
Well, I mean, he may be the best player on the team, period. I mean, he's probably a Hall of Famer when his career's said and done. We'll see how long he plays and how that goes. But he's going to be your left tackle. Like, when he comes back, he's your left tackle. Now, how you rearrange everything else, we'll see. Presumably, Graham Barton goes back to center. But if Luke Gedeke is still missing time or misses time, could Barton swing to right tackle? I don't know if he's ever played there. Tristan Wirfs, it was a big change when he went from right tackle to left tackle. He made it look like it was seamless, but he spent a long time that offseason working on it. He said it's like, you write all your life with your right hand. Now you're going to write with your left hand. Like, that's a huge change in how you step, how your timing, everything goes with it. So Wirfs goes back to left tackle for sure. If Graham Barton goes back to center, if Luke Gedeke is playing, then Graham Barton's center, Bredesen's going to be your left guard, and now your right guard, Cody Mauch's out for the year, so you won't have your right guard. But now you're back to basically your regular offensive line, which is ultimately what you want to have. I mean, in a guard, not taking it away from Cody Mauch or Ben Bredesen at left guard, but those are easier positions to fill than tackles or centers. Those, when you, in the hierarchy of your offensive line, it's left tackle, center, right tackle, and most important, your guards are next, because that's a help position more than a isolation position. So, getting Tristan Wirfs back, and I doubt it's this week. It may not even be next week. When he's ready, great. And that's the good thing about Wirfs. It's not like Cody Mauch or Kancey, who are out for the year. You're getting Wirfs back, just like you're going to get Godwin back at some point as well. So it's just kind of survived the first part of the season, and the Bucs are 2-0 so far, so they're surviving and doing what they need to do until they get those reinforcements back.
So they're going to have to dig deep. Hopefully it's either a guy on the practice squad, or maybe Jason Light's going to have to reach out and phone someone there and fill those gaps.
But the guy was a Feeney from was on New England's practice squad. So, and he hasn't started in the NFL in a few years, but he's got a lot of experience there too, which is, when you can find a guy like that to bring in to help in the offensive line, that's huge. Like, someone who's started and has a lot of experience. You're not just getting a young rookie or second-year player that's barely played. To be able to basically be a backup for some positions there. That's huge by Jason Light.
So a masterclass by him yet again. You take a look at a lot of the moves. Why are you drafting Egbuka? As it turns out, 30,000-foot view of this team, I think that he has made some truly great decisions. Listen, Steve, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Report. And check him out. If you don't know, the #1 sports podcast in Florida. I think I heard
That's
that. Sports Day Tampa Bay, Rick Stroud, Steve Versnick, knocking it out of the park with your Buccaneers news. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Report.